Captain Jake Morrison looked out through the main window of his ship's bridge. In the distance, huge crystal buildings floated in space around a bright blue star. These were the homes of the Celestial Dominion, the beings who called themselves gods and ruled over many planets across this part of the galaxy. Jake had been a ship captain for 15 years. He had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. The crystal structures were bigger than most moons. They glowed with their own light and seemed to bend the very fabric of space around them. It was easy to see why so many alien races believed these beings were gods. Commander Lisa Rodriguez walked over to Jake's side. She held a data pad in her hands and looked worried. Lisa had short black hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. She was one of the best officers Jake had ever worked with. "Captain, I've been reading the reports from our scouts," Lisa said. "The Dominion has been doing this for 300 years. They show up at new worlds with their ships that can do impossible things. They tell the people there that they are gods and demand worship." Jake nodded. He had read the same reports. The Dominion's ships could become invisible. They could create gravity fields that crushed enemy vessels. They could fire beams of energy that turned entire mountains to dust. To most alien races, these powers seemed like magic. "What happens to the races that refuse to worship them?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "They get destroyed," Lisa replied. "Complete destruction. No survivors. The Dominion calls it divine punishment for heresy." The bridge of the UHS Defiance was busy with activity. Crew members worked at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems and watching for any sign of Dominion vessels. The Defiance was humanity's newest and most advanced warship. It had taken 10 years to build and contain technology that no human had ever used in battle before. Dr. Alex Carter sat at the science station near the back of the bridge. Alex was a thin man with glasses who always seemed to be thinking about 3 different problems at once. He had been studying the Dominion for months, ever since they had made contact with the human colony on New Terra. "Captain," Alex called out, "I think you need to see this." Jake and Lisa walked over to Alex's station. The science officer's screen showed wave patterns and energy readings that looked like colorful lines dancing across a black background. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Jake asked. Alex pointed to different parts of the display. "These are the energy signatures from Dominion ships. I've been analyzing them for weeks. At first, they looked completely alien, unlike anything we've ever seen." "But," Lisa prompted, "but when I ran them through our quantum physics database, I found matches," Alex continued. "These aren't divine powers, Captain. They're advanced technology based on scientific principles we already understand." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Are you sure about this?" "Very sure," Alex replied. "Their invisibility systems use electromagnetic field manipulation. Their gravity weapons work by creating focused graviton streams. Their energy shields operate on quantum barrier principles. It's all technology, Captain. Very advanced technology, but still just technology." Lisa leaned forward to get a better look at the data. "If they're not really gods, then where did they get this technology?" Alex switched to a different screen that showed archaeological data. "I think they found it. There are traces of an older civilization in this sector. The databases call them the precursors. They disappeared about 50,000 years ago, but they left behind ruins and technology." "So the Dominion found these ruins and learned how to use the technology?" Jake asked. "That's my theory," Alex said. "They reverse-engineered precursor technology and used it to set themselves up as gods. It's actually quite clever. Most alien races don't have the scientific knowledge to realize what they're seeing is technology, not magic." Jake thought about this information. If Alex was right, then the Dominion wasn't really all-powerful. They were just a very old alien race with very good technology. That changed everything. "Doctor, how confident are you in this analysis?" Jake asked. Alex adjusted his glasses and looked directly at Jake. 95% confident, Captain. I've run the calculations dozens of times. The energy patterns match known physics. There's no divine power here, just advanced engineering. The bridge's communication system chimed. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, the ship's weapons officer, spoke from his station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Burke. Put her through, Jake ordered. Admiral Helen Burke's face appeared on the main screen. She was a tough woman in her 60s who had been fighting in space battles since before Jake was born. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes were hard as steel. Captain Morrison, Admiral Burke said, I've received Dr. Carter's preliminary report. Is he certain about his findings? As certain as he can be without direct examination of Dominion technology, Admiral, Jake replied. Burke nodded. Good. Because we've just received word from New Terra. The Dominion deadline is in 2 weeks. High Priest Valdris is demanding that our colonists submit to his rule or face what he calls divine judgment. Jake felt anger building in his chest. New Terra was home to 50,000 human colonists. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, and families who had traveled across the galaxy to build a new life. The thought of them being forced to worship false gods made him furious. What are our orders, Admiral? Jake asked. Operation Revelation is approved, Burke said. You are to proceed to the Dominion sacred system and challenge their claims of divinity. If Dr. Carter is right about their technology, we might be able to level the playing field. Lisa stepped forward. Admiral, we're just one ship. Intelligence. Reports say the Dominion has hundreds of vessels. That's correct, Commander Rodriguez, Burke replied. But surprise is on our side. They've never faced an enemy that understood the true nature of their power. They're used to intimidating primitive civilizations with displays of godlike might. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh spoke up from his station near the engines. Danny was a big man with calloused hands who could fix anything that was broken. Admiral, the new defensive systems are online and tested. Our reactive armor should be able to absorb and redistribute their energy attacks. And our offensive capabilities? Burke asked. The disruptor weapons are ready, Ryan Brooks reported. If the doctor is right about their technology using quantum fields, we should be able to interfere with their systems. Admiral Burke looked satisfied. Remember, your mission isn't to start a war. It's to prove that the Dominion can be challenged. If we can show even one alien race that these so-called gods can be defeated, it might inspire others to stand up for themselves. Jake understood the importance of their mission. For 3 centuries, the Dominion had controlled dozens of alien civilizations through fear and deception. Entire species lived as slaves, giving up their resources and their children to beings they believed were their creators. We won't let you down, Admiral, Jake said. Burke's expression softened slightly. I know you won't, Captain. The entire human race is counting on you. Show these false gods what happens when they threaten free people. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent for a moment. Everyone understood what they were about. To attempt. They were going to challenge beings that entire civilizations believed were gods. It was either the bravest thing humans had ever done, or the most foolish. Dr. Carter broke the silence. Captain, there's something else you should know. While analyzing the Dominion's technology, I found evidence that they're not the original users of these systems. What do you mean? Jake asked. The technology is too advanced for their current level of scientific understanding, Alex explained. It's like giving a Stone Age tribe modern weapons. They can use them, but they don't really understand how they work. That might be an advantage for us. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These men and women had volunteered for a mission. That might end with their deaths. But they believed in something more important than their own lives. They believed that no one had the right to rule over others by claiming divine authority. Set course for the Ethros system, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. It's time to pay the gods a visit. The Defiants turned away from the crystal structures and jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, The Dominion continued its ancient deception, unaware that their greatest challenge was coming from a species they had never even heard of until 6 months ago. In 2 days, they would arrive in the most sacred system of the Celestial, Dominion. They would face technology that seemed like magic, and beings who had convinced entire civilizations of their divinity. But they carried with them something the Dominion had never encountered before: the human refusal to kneel before anyone, no matter how powerful they claimed to be. The UHS Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Ethros system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the massive temple world that hung in space before them. The planet was covered in golden pyramids and crystal spires that reached up into the atmosphere. Even from this distance, the world seemed to glow with its own inner light. "Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell called from the communications station, "we're being scanned. Multiple contacts approaching from 3 directions." Jake looked at the main display screen. 3 dots were moving toward their position at incredible speed. As they got closer, the dots resolved into shapes that made several crew members gasp in surprise. The Dominion ships looked like they were made of pure light. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal mixed with starfire. Energy crackled around them in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Each ship was the size of a human battleship, but they moved through space like dancers, graceful and deadly. "They're beautiful," whispered Chief Petty Officer Nicole Green from the sensor station. "Beautiful things can still kill you," Commander Lisa Rodriguez replied, but she was staring at the ships too. Dr. Alex Carter worked frantically at his science station, scanning the approaching vessels. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups in all 3 ships. Their power signatures are off the charts." "Red alert," Jake ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Raise defensive screens." The bridge lights dimmed to red as the crew prepared for combat. Everyone moved with practiced efficiency, but Jake could see the tension in their faces. They were about to face technology that most of the galaxy believed was divine power. A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect English, but with a tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The voice was deep and musical, like the sound of wind chimes mixed with thunder. "Mortal vessel, you have entered the sacred realm of Ethros without permission. This is a violation of divine law. Identify yourselves and explain your presence. In the home of the gods." Jake stepped forward toward the main screen. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Human Systems Navy ship Defiance. We're here to speak with High Priest Valdris about his demands on our colony world." There was a long pause. Then the air in the center of the bridge began to shimmer and glow. Light gathered and formed into the shape of a tall, elegant being. The hologram showed a creature that looked almost human, but with skin that glowed like polished gold and eyes that burned with white fire. Robes of what appeared to be woven starlight flowed around the figure's body. "I am High Priest Valdris of the Celestial Dominion," the being said. "You dare to speak of demands as if gods negotiate with insects. Your species has been judged and found wanting. You will submit to divine authority or face divine punishment." Jake looked directly into those burning eyes without flinching. "We don't submit to anyone, Valdris, and we've discovered some interesting facts about your so-called divine powers." The hologram's expression changed slightly. For just a moment, something that might have been surprise flickered across the golden features. "You speak of facts as if mortal minds could comprehend the nature of divinity. We are the creators of matter and energy itself." Dr. Carter stood up from his station, holding a data pad. "Your divine powers operate on quantum field manipulation principles. Your gravity weapons use controlled graviton emission. Your stealth systems employ electromagnetic spectrum bending. It's advanced physics, not divine intervention." Valdris turned to look at Alex, and the air around the hologram seemed to grow colder. Your primitive science cannot explain the power of the gods. We have watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia. We have seen species destroy themselves, trying to understand forces beyond their comprehension. Maybe, Jake said. But we've also learned a few things about those forces. Chief Walsh, show our guest what human engineering can do. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh worked at his console, and the Defiance's new defensive systems came online. The ship's hull began to glow with a soft blue light as the reactive armor activated. Energy patterns flowed across the ship's surface like water, creating geometric designs that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's heartbeat. Valdris stared at the energy displays. Impossible. No mortal race has ever developed technology capable of such sophisticated energy manipulation. We learned it from studying your people, Alex said. Once we understood that your powers were technology rather than magic, it became much easier to figure out how they worked. The priest's golden features hardened into an expression of cold anger. Even if what you say is true, your single vessel faces the might of the celestial dominion. You cannot hope to survive against the combined power of our fleet. We're not here to fight your entire fleet, Jake replied. We're here to prove a point. You're not gods, Valdris. You're just another alien race with advanced technology. And that means you can be defeated like anyone else. Commander Rodriguez checked her tactical display. Captain, the 3 ships are moving into attack formation. They're powering weapons. Jake looked back at the hologram. Last chance, Valdris. Withdraw your demands on our colony and leave human space alone. The priest laughed, and the sound was like silver bells mixed with the roar of a distant storm. Your arrogance is breathtaking. No species has ever dared to make demands of the gods. You will learn why we are worshipped across 100 worlds. The hologram vanished, and immediately the 3 Dominion ships began their attack approach. Energy built up along their hulls, and space itself seemed to bend around them as they prepared to unleash their weapons. Here they come, Ryan Brooks called from the weapons station. Multiple target locks confirmed. They're charging what appears to be some kind of energy cannon. Evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Let's see what they've got. The first Dominion. Ship fired, and a beam of golden light streaked across space toward the Defiance. The beam wasn't just energy. It seemed to twist reality around itself, creating a tunnel of distorted space-time that reached out like a giant finger. Brace for impact, Lisa shouted. The beam struck the Defiance's defensive screens, and for a moment, the entire ship was surrounded by blazing light. The hull groaned under forces that tried to tear it apart at the molecular level. Several crew members were thrown from their stations as the ship shook like a leaf in a hurricane. But when the light faded, the Defiance was still there. The reactive armor had absorbed most of the energy and redirected it into the ship's power systems. Instead of being destroyed, they were now running at 110% power capacity. Damage report, Jake called out. Minor hull damage on Deck 6 and 7, Nicole reported. No casualties. Shield strength is actually higher than before they shot us. Dr. Carter looked up from his instruments with excitement. Captain, the reactive armor worked exactly as designed. It absorbed their energy and converted it to usable power. We're stronger now than when we started. The second Dominion ship fired, sending another beam of twisted space-time toward them. This time, Jake was ready. Hard to port. Return fire. Tsatur. Defiance spun away from the incoming beam while its own weapons charged. The disruptor cannons that Danny Walsh had spent months perfecting were unlike anything humanity had ever built. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy ships with brute force, they were designed to interfere with the quantum fields that powered Dominion technology. Blue beams lanced out from the Defiance toward the attacking ships. The beams didn't explode on impact or burn through armor. Instead, they passed through the Dominion hulls like ghosts and began disrupting the energy patterns inside. The second Dominion ship suddenly became visible as its cloaking field collapsed. The third ship found its gravity manipulation systems offline and began drifting helplessly through space. The first ship's weapons went dead as its power distribution network fell apart. Direct hits on all 3 targets, Ryan reported with satisfaction. Their systems are shutting down across the board. Jake opened a communication channel to the Dominion ships. This is Captain Morrison. We've just demonstrated that your divine powers can be countered by sufficient knowledge and preparation. We're not here to destroy you, but we won't allow you to continue threatening innocent people. There was no immediate response from the Dominion vessels. Jake could imagine the confusion and panic aboard those ships as their crews tried to understand how mortals had neutralized their godlike technology, but the battle was far from over. On the long-range sensors, Nicole Green detected new contacts approaching from deeper in the system. Lots of them. Captain, she called out, I'm reading multiple hyperspace signatures. Big ones. It looks like the entire Dominion fleet is coming. This way. Jake nodded grimly. He had expected this. 3 disabled ships were just the beginning. Now came the real test. Could one human warship stand against the combined might of beings who had ruled as gods for 3 centuries? All stations, prepare for extended combat, Jake ordered. Sarah, open a channel on all frequencies. It's time to let the galaxy know what we've learned about their gods. Lieutenant Mitchell worked at her console, establishing connections to communication networks across dozens of star systems. In a few moments, they would broadcast Dr. Carter's evidence to every world in Dominion space. The truth about the Celestial Dominion's false divinity would spread faster than their ships could respond. The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of angry stars. Captain Jake Morrison counted over 300 ships on the main display, each one blazing with the same golden energy that had made them seem godlike for so many centuries. They formed a perfect sphere around the Defiance, trapping the human ship in the center of their formation. That's a lot of very angry gods, Commander Lisa Rodriguez said, trying to keep her voice steady. High Priest Valdris appeared again as a hologram on the bridge. This time his golden features showed pure rage. The starlight robes around his body flickered and sparked with electrical energy that made the air smell like burned metal. You have committed the ultimate heresy, Valdris declared. No mortal has ever raised a hand against the Divine Fleet and lived to speak of it. Your species will be erased from existence as an example to all who would challenge the natural order. Jake stepped forward, meeting the priest's burning gaze without fear. The natural order doesn't include fake gods ruling over free people. You've been lying to entire civilizations for 300 years. That ends today. Lies? Valdris laughed, and the sound made the bridge lights flicker. We are the creators of life itself. We shaped the first worlds and breathed consciousness into primitive matter. What are you but insects that learn to fly between the stars? Dr. Alex Carter looked up from his science station where he had been analyzing the energy patterns of the surrounding fleet. Captain, I'm detecting the same quantum signatures from all their ships. They're using identical technology, probably copied from the same precursor databases. You hear that, Valdris? Jake said. Your entire divine power comes from copying the homework of a dead civilization. How does it feel to know you're not even original? The priest's hologram flickered with rage. Enough words. You will witness true divine power and despair in your final moments. All ships, prepare the judgment protocol. Let the mortals see what happens when insects challenge gods. The hologram vanished, and immediately every Dominion ship in the sphere began charging their weapons. The space around the Defiance filled with golden light as hundreds of energy cannons prepared to fire. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend and twist under the massive buildup of power. Energy readings are off the charts, Nicole Green reported, from the sensor station. Captain, I don't think our shields can handle this much firepower at once. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh worked frantically at his console, rerouting power to the defensive systems. I'm pushing the reactive armor to maximum capacity, but we're about to find out if human engineering is as good as we think it is. Lieutenant, Commander Ryan Brooks had his hands ready over the weapons controls. Captain, should I target their command ship? Negative, Jake replied. We stick to the plan. Sarah, is the broadcast ready? Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell nodded from the communications station. All frequencies are open, Captain. We're ready to transmit Dr. Carter's evidence to every world in Dominion space. Do it, Jake ordered. Let the galaxy hear the truth. The transmission began just as the Dominion fleet opened fire. 300 beams of golden energy converged on the Defiance from every direction. The combined attack was designed to completely vaporize the human ship, leaving nothing but scattered atoms floating in space. The beams struck the Defiance's defensive screens with the force of a small star going supernova. The ship was surrounded by a ball of energy so bright it could be seen from the surface of Ethros. The hull temperature spiked to levels that should have melted the strongest metals ever created. For 10 seconds that felt like hours. The Defiance disappeared inside. A miniature sun. Every system on the ship screamed warnings as they pushed beyond their design limits. The crew held on to their stations as the ship shook apart around them. Then something remarkable happened. Instead of being destroyed, the reactive armor began, absorbing the massive energy input and channeling it into the ship's power grid. The Defiance had been designed to handle energy attacks, but Danny Walsh had never dreamed it would face this much power at once. Hull temperature stabilizing, Nicole reported with amazement in her voice. Power levels are now at 200% of normal capacity. That's impossible, Danny muttered, staring at his engineering displays. The ship should have melted. How are we still alive? Dr. Carter was studying his instruments with excitement. The reactive armor is working better than we hoped. It's not just absorbing their energy. It's learning from each attack and becoming more efficient. The golden fire around the Defiance began to fade, revealing the human ship still intact and operational. More than that, the ship was now glowing, with its own blue energy as the absorbed power flowed through its systems. Across the Dominion fleet, there was stunned silence. For 3 centuries, no ship had ever survived the Judgment Protocol. The combined firepower of the Sacred Fleet had always been enough to destroy entire worlds, let alone a single vessel. Impossible! Valdris's voice came over the communication channel. No mortal technology can withstand divine judgment. This is some form of trickery. No tricks, Jake replied. Just good engineering and an understanding of physics. Your energy. Attacks are powerful, but they follow predictable patterns. Once we figured out how your technology worked, it became possible to defend against it. While the Dominion fleet tried to understand what had just happened, Sarah Mitchell's broadcast was spreading across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, alien civilizations that had worshipped the Dominion for generations were hearing Dr. Carter's evidence for the first time. The proof was undeniable. The Dominion's divine powers were based on technology, not supernatural abilities. Energy signatures, quantum field patterns, and mathematical analysis all pointed to the same conclusion. The gods were frauds using advanced science to maintain their rule. Captain, Ryan Brooks called out, several Dominion ships are breaking formation. It looks like they're trying to jam our transmission. Stop them, Jake ordered. The Defiance's disruptor weapons came online, powered by the massive energy surge from the failed attack. Blue beams lanced out toward the Dominion ships that were moving to interfere with the broadcast. The beams passed through their hulls and disrupted the quantum fields powering their jamming systems. One by one, the Dominion ships found their communication equipment failing. Their cloaking devices shut down, revealing ships that looked far less divine when stripped of their energy auras. Some vessels lost their gravity manipulation and began tumbling helplessly through space. Their technology is more fragile than it appears, Alex Carter observed. It's powerful, but it depends on precise quantum field alignment. Disrupt the fields, and the whole system collapses. High Priest Valdris's ship moved forward from the fleet formation. It was larger than the others, with a hull that seemed to be made of crystallized light. Energy crackling around it formed complex patterns that hurt to look at directly. "You dare to use our own sacred power against us!" Valdris's voice was filled with fury. "We are the masters of energy and matter. You cannot hope to match divine might with crude mortal weapons." "Watch us," Jake replied. The priest's flagship fired a massive beam of energy that was different from the others. Instead of golden light, this weapon produced a beam of pure darkness that seemed to absorb light and heat from everything around it. The beam struck the Defiance and began draining energy from the ship's systems. "They're pulling power directly from our reactors," Danny Walsh reported with alarm. "If this continues, we'll lose all power in minutes," Jake thought quickly. If the Dominion could drain their energy, then maybe the reverse was also possible. "Danny, can you reverse the polarity on our reactive armor?" "Reverse it how?" the engineer asked. "Instead of absorbing energy attacks, can we project our stored energy outward?" Danny's eyes widened as he understood what Jake was suggesting. "Captain, that would turn our defensive system into a weapon. I've never tried anything like that before." "First time for everything," Jake said. "Do it!" The engineer's hands flew over his controls, reconfiguring the reactive armor systems in ways they had never been designed for. The blue energy that had been flowing through the ship's hull began to concentrate and focus into a single point on the forward section. "Field reversal complete," Danny announced. "But Captain, if this doesn't work, we could blow ourselves up." "Better than letting them drain us dry," Jake replied. "Fire!" The Defiance released all of its stored energy in a single massive pulse. The beam that erupted from the ship was pure blue fire, containing the power of 300 Dominion energy weapons. It struck Valdris's flagship with enough force to crack a moon. The priest's ship staggered under the impact. Its crystalline hull began to fracture, and the energy patterns around it flickered and died. For the first time in recorded history, a Dominion flagship had been damaged in battle. "Direct hit on the command vessel," Ryan Brooks reported with satisfaction. "Their main weapons are offline, and I'm reading massive system failures throughout their ship." The rest of the Dominion fleet seemed frozen in shock. Their most powerful ship, the personal vessel of their highest priest, had been hurt by mortals. The beings they served as gods were bleeding, but the battle was far from over. Even with their flagship damaged, the Dominion still. The second attack from the Dominion fleet was different from the first. Instead of firing all at once, the ships began attacking in waves, trying to overwhelm the Defiance's defensive systems through constant pressure rather than raw power. Golden beams of energy struck the human ship every few seconds, giving the reactive armor no time to fully process and store the incoming energy. Captain Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair as the ship shook under the relentless assault. The Defiance's hull was holding, but barely. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the lights flickered with each new impact. "Hull integrity down to 60%. Chief Petty Officer Nicole Green reported from her station. "The armor is overloading. It can't keep up with this rate of fire." Dr. Alex Carter looked up from his science console with urgency. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange. The Dominion ships aren't just attacking us randomly. They're following a specific pattern, like they're executing a programmed sequence." "What kind of pattern?" Commander Lisa Rodriguez asked while coordinating damage control teams throughout the ship. "It's mathematical," Alex replied, his fingers dancing over his controls as he analyzed the incoming data. "The timing, the energy levels, the targeting. It's all based on calculations rather than tactical decisions. I think their commanders aren't actually making these choices in real time." Chief Engineer Danny Walsh wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked to keep the ship's systems running. "Captain, if the doctor is right, then maybe we can predict their next moves." Jake saw the opportunity immediately. "Alex, can you figure out their pattern and tell us where they'll strike next?" Give me 30 seconds, the scientist replied, his hands flying over his instruments. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell continued broadcasting from the communications station. Her transmission wasn't just sending Dr. Carter's evidence to other worlds anymore. She was also providing a live feed of the battle, showing the entire galaxy that the mighty Dominion fleet was struggling to destroy a single human ship. "Captain," Sarah called out, "I'm receiving responses to our broadcast. Dozens of worlds are acknowledging receipt of the data. Some of them are asking questions about the Dominion's true nature." "Any responses from Dominion subject worlds?" Lisa asked. "Yes, Commander. 3 different species have sent messages asking if what we're saying is really true. They want to know if the gods can actually be challenged." Jake felt a surge of hope. The truth was spreading faster than the Dominion could contain it. Every minute they stayed alive gave more alien civilizations time to question their faith in false gods. "Got it," Alex announced. "The next wave will target our port side, sections 4 through 7. After that, they'll focus fire on the engine compartment." "Danny, reinforce those areas," Jake ordered. "Ryan, prepare to return fire the moment their attack cycle gives us an opening." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks had been studying the Dominion formation while waiting for his chance to strike back. "Captain, I think I see a weakness in their formation. They're so focused on coordinated attacks that they're not protecting themselves from crossfire." "Explain," Jake said. "If we can get them to fire at us while we're positioned between 2 groups of their ships, their own energy beams might hit each other," Ryan explained. It was a dangerous plan. The Defiance would have to fly directly between 2 sections of the Dominion fleet while under heavy fire. But if it worked, they could turn the enemy's overwhelming numbers into a disadvantage. "Do it," Jake decided. "All hands, brace for high speed. Maneuvering!" The Defiance suddenly accelerated toward a gap in the Dominion formation. The move caught the enemy by surprise, and several ships had to quickly adjust their aim to track the fast-moving human vessel. Golden energy beams filled the space around the Defiance as dozens of Dominion ships fired at once. But Jake's plan worked. In their eagerness to destroy the human ship, some of the Dominion vessels fired through the positions of their own allies. Golden beams struck Dominion hulls, and for the first time in the battle, the false gods were hurting each other. Several ships lost power as their own weapons disrupted their quantum field generators. Others found their cloaking systems failing as friendly fire interfered with their stealth technology. "Direct hits on multiple Dominion vessels," Nicole reported, with excitement. "They're shooting their own ships." High Priest Valdris's voice came over the communication channel, filled with rage and frustration. "Incompetent fools. You're letting a single mortal vessel make you fire on your own fleet. Reform the attack pattern and eliminate that ship." But the damage was done. The perfect coordination of the Dominion fleet had been broken. Ships were now hesitating before firing, afraid of hitting their allies. The wave attacks became less frequent and less powerful as commanders tried to avoid friendly fire incidents. During the brief lull in the attack, Jake made a critical decision. "Sarah, patch me through to all Dominion ships on their command frequency." "Captain, that's not possible," Sarah replied. "Their communications are encrypted with quantum codes we can't break." Dr. Carter looked up from his station with a grin. "Actually, we can. I've been analyzing their communication patterns during the battle. Their encryption is based on the same precursor technology as their weapons. I think I can crack it." Jake ordered. Alex worked quickly, using his understanding of precursor quantum mechanics to unravel the Dominion's communication codes. Within minutes, he had broken through their encryption and gained access to their internal network. "Communication link established," Sarah announced. "You're connected to the entire Dominion fleet." Jake opened a channel that would be heard by every ship in the enemy formation. "This is Captain Jake Morrison speaking to all Dominion forces. I know some of you can hear me, and I want you to listen carefully. There was immediate chatter on the Dominion channels as commanders realized their communications had been compromised, but Jake continued speaking before they could cut him off. Your priests have been lying to you for centuries. You're not gods, and you're not fighting for divine causes. You're tools being used by the Luminari to maintain their power over innocent civilizations. Impossible, came a voice from one of the Dominion ships. The Luminari are our divine guides. They created us to serve the will of the gods, did they? Alex Carter interrupted, having patched into the channel. Or did they find you on some primitive world and give you advanced technology in exchange for your loyalty? Check your own historical records. I guarantee you'll find gaps in your early history, right around the time you first encountered Precursor. Ruins. There was a long pause in the Dominion communications. Jake could imagine the confusion and doubt spreading through their fleet as individual commanders began to question everything they had been taught. Even if what you say is true, another Dominion voice replied, we have served faithfully for generations. The Luminari gave us purpose and power. They gave you chains, Jake replied. Chains made of lies and false promises. How many of your own people have died enforcing the Luminari's rule? How many worlds have you destroyed because they refused to worship false gods? The questions hit home. Jake could hear arguments breaking out on the Dominion command channels, as crews debated among themselves. Some remained loyal to the Luminari, but others were beginning to doubt. Commander Rodriguez watched her tactical display as the Dominion formation began to waver. Captain, several ships are breaking off from the main group. It looks like they're withdrawing from the battle. Cowards. Valdris's voice cut through the confusion. Any ship that retreats from this battle will face divine punishment. You sworn an oath to serve the gods unto death. We swore an oath to serve gods, came a reply from one of the withdrawing ships. If you're not really gods, then our oath is meaningless. The Dominion fleet was falling apart. What had started as a coordinated attack by 300 ships was turning into a chaotic argument between former allies. Some ships continued attacking the Defiance, while others held their fire and demanded answers from their superiors. High Priest Valdris's flagship, still damaged from Jake's earlier attack, moved forward from the main formation. The crystalline ship's hull was cracked and darkened, but it still carried enough firepower to destroy the Defiance several times over. Enough, Valdris declared. I will personally end this heresy. All ships, stand down. The High Temple will handle the mortals. The priest's ship began charging a weapon unlike anything the Defiance had faced. Instead of golden energy, this weapon gathered darkness around itself, creating a void in space that seemed to absorb light and matter. It was a weapon designed to completely erase its target from existence. Captain, Nicole warned, I'm reading energy patterns that don't match anything in our database. Whatever that weapon does, our armor won't protect us. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They had come further than anyone had expected, but this might be the end. The damaged Dominion flagship was preparing to fire a weapon that could destroy them utterly, but they had accomplished their mission. The truth about the Dominion was spreading across the galaxy. Even if the Defiance was destroyed, the lies that had kept entire civilizations in chains were finally being exposed. All hands, Jake announced over the ship's communication system. It's been an honor serving with you. Whatever happens next, remember that we came. The alien ships that emerged from hyperspace came from a dozen different species that had served the Dominion for centuries. Corvani battle cruisers with their distinctive, curved hulls flew alongside Thraxian destroyers and Zelani frigates. Ships that had never fought together were now united by a single purpose: the destruction of their former masters. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as more ships continued to arrive. Sarah, are you getting any communications from the new arrivals? Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell worked at her console, trying to establish contact with the rebel fleet. Yes, sir. I'm receiving transmissions in multiple languages. The universal translator is working on them now. "Captain Morrison," came a voice over the communication channel speaking heavily accented English. "This is Commander Thek of the Corvani Defense Force. We received your transmission and the evidence about the Luminary deception. Our people have voted to reject Dominion rule." Another voice joined the channel. "This is Captain Zara of the Thraxian. Liberation Fleet. We have waited 3 generations for proof that the gods could be challenged. Today we fight for our freedom." High Priest Valdris's flagship hesitated in its attack as the priest realized what was happening around him. The darkness weapon that had been charging to destroy the Defiance powered down as Valdris faced a new reality. His empire was collapsing around him. "Impossible." Valdris's voice came over the communication channel. "These species are bound to us by sacred oaths. They cannot break divine law. Divine law assumes divine beings," Commander Thek replied. "You are not gods. You are merely another species that learned to use advanced technology. The sacred oaths were signed under false pretenses." Dr. Alex Carter looked up from his science station with excitement. "Captain, I'm detecting massive system failures throughout the Dominion fleet. It looks like their subject species had access to their quantum communication networks and are using that access to disrupt Dominion systems from the inside." The proof came immediately. Across the Dominion formation, ships began losing power as their own technology turned against them. Cloaking systems failed, weapons went offline, and engines shut down as the network they had used to coordinate their empire became a weapon in the hands of their former subjects. "Clever," Commander Lisa Rodriguez observed. "They used the Dominion's own communication system to plant disruption codes in their ships." Jake opened a channel to the rebel fleet. "This is Captain Morrison. We're honored to fight alongside you, but be careful. The Dominion still has weapons that can destroy entire fleets." "We know the risks," Captain Zara replied. "But we would rather die as free beings than live as slaves to false gods." Valdris's ship moved forward again, the darkness weapon beginning to charge once more. But now it faced a choice: destroy the Defiance and risk being overwhelmed by the rebel fleet, or retreat and try to maintain control of what remained of the Dominion. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," Valdris ordered his remaining loyal forces. "Destroy the source of this heresy, and the rebellion will collapse." But only about half of the Dominion fleet responded to his command. The rest had either been disabled by the network attacks or had crews that were questioning their orders. Some ships simply powered down their weapons and refused to fight. The loyal Dominion ships opened fire on the Defiance, but their attack was met by return fire from the rebel fleet. Golden beams of energy were answered by missiles, plasma cannons, and kinetic projectiles from dozens of different alien weapon systems. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh watched his instruments as the ship took hits from multiple directions. "Captain, our armor is at its limit. We can't take much more of this." "Help is coming," Jake replied, watching as Corvani cruisers moved to intercept the attacking Dominion ships. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For 3 centuries, the Dominion had maintained order through fear and overwhelming displays of power. Now their former subjects were fighting back with weapons and tactics the Luminari had never expected to face. A group of Thraxian ships used a coordinated attack pattern to disable a Dominion heavy cruiser. Zilani frigates used their superior speed to dart in and out of the enemy formation, striking weak points and retreating before the slower Dominion ships could respond. But the most devastating attacks came from the Defiance itself. Using the energy it had absorbed from earlier attacks, the human ship unleashed a series of focused disruptor beams that shut down Dominion systems with surgical precision. "Their quantum field generators are more vulnerable than we thought," Alex Carter reported. "Each time we disrupt one ship, it creates a cascade failure that affects nearby vessels. They're all connected through their precursor technology network." Jake saw the opportunity. "Danny, can you overload our disruptor array? Push it beyond safe limits?" "I can try," the engineer replied. "But Captain, if we overload the system, we might not be able to use it again." "Do it," Jake ordered. "One big hit. might be enough to bring down their entire formation. The Defiance began charging its disruptor weapons beyond their design specifications. Energy flowed through the ship's systems at dangerous levels, causing warning alarms to sound throughout the vessel. High Priest Valdris seemed to sense what was happening. His flagship abandoned its attack on the Defiance and began retreating toward the edge of the system. The darkness weapon that had been charging to destroy the human ship powered down as the priest realized that his position was hopeless. All loyal ships, retreat to the second sacred system, Valdris ordered. We will regroup and return with sufficient force to crush this rebellion. But it was too late. The Defiance released its overcharged disruptor pulse, sending a wave of quantum disruption through the entire Dominion formation. One by one, the remaining loyal ships lost power as their precursor technology failed. The rebel fleet moved in to capture the disabled vessels. For the first time in 3 centuries, Dominion ships were being boarded by the species they had once ruled. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks watched his tactical display as the last of the loyal Dominion ships surrendered or fled the system. Captain, the battle is over. The Dominion fleet has been defeated. Jake felt a mixture of exhaustion and amazement. They had done it. One human ship and a fleet of newly free alien races had brought down an empire that had ruled through false divinity for generations. "Sarah, what's the status of our broadcast?" Jake asked. "Still transmitting, Captain," Mitchell replied. "The evidence about the Dominion's true nature has now reached over 300 worlds. I'm receiving confirmation that rebellions are breaking out across their entire territory." Chief Petty Officer Nicole Green looked up from her sensor station. "Captain, I'm detecting additional hyperspace signatures. More ships are arriving, but these don't match any known Dominion or Rebel configurations." On the main screen, new vessels emerged from hyperspace. These ships were different from anything Jake had ever seen. They were sleek and elegant, with hulls that seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. Unknown vessels. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UHS Defiance. Please identify yourselves." A new voice came over the communication channel, speaking in a language that sounded like music mixed with mathematics. The universal translator worked to convert it to English. "Greetings, warriors of Earth. I am Keeper Simeon of the Precursor Archive. We have been watching this conflict with great interest." Dr. Carter nearly fell out of his chair. "Captain, they're saying they're precursors, but that's impossible. The precursor civilization disappeared 50,000 years ago." "Not disappeared," the musical voice replied. "Hidden. We withdrew from the galaxy when we realized that our technology was being misused by younger species. We have been waiting for a civilization mature enough to use our knowledge responsibly." Jake felt his heart racing. "You're the real precursors? The ones who created the technology the Dominion has been using?" "Indeed," Keeper Simeon replied. "The Luminari discovered some of our abandoned facilities and reverse-engineered a few of our simpler technologies. They used this knowledge to establish themselves as gods, which was never our intention." Commander Rodriguez stepped forward. "Why reveal yourselves now?" "Because you have proven that younger civilizations can grow beyond the need for false gods," the Keeper explained. "Your species challenged beings you believed to be divine, not for conquest or power, but to free others from oppression. This shows wisdom and moral development." The precursor ships moved closer to the Defiance, and Jake could see that they were scanning his vessel with instruments far more advanced than anything humanity possessed. "Your defensive systems are quite impressive," Keeper Simeon observed. "You took our stolen technology and improved upon it in ways we had not considered. Perhaps we were wrong to withdraw from the galaxy. Perhaps it is time for us to share our knowledge with those who will use it wisely." High Priest Valdris, who had been fleeing toward the edge of the system, suddenly found his ship surrounded by precursor vessels. His flagship, already damaged from the earlier battle, was completely outmatched by the technology of its creators. "Luminary vessel, you will surrender immediately," Keeper Simeon commanded. "You have come